Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Yeah, we need a treat, don't we? So I think as well, let's do a new adventure.
Oh, wow.
It's been quite a while since doing a new adventure. And tell you what, shall we do one of the biggies? Yeah, let's do something we've been hearing a lot about, both as a concept and also as a work of fiction in recent months. We're going to be reading Human Nature, Matt.
Oh, very cool. By Paul Cornell.
By Paul Cornell, yeah.
And
yeah.
We say the original book club never did that one?
No, they never did that one.
Huh.
They never did that one. I have checked.
Wow. Well, I might have to do a rewatch of the episode too at some point.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
It's going pretty well. Happy July. Is it been sweltering enough for you?
Yeah, it's been pretty warm. Fortunately, it's a good deal cooler today. Yeah, so it's not in the 90s today.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
I know you all have major lack of AC over there.
Yes. We just move fans around the property, and also in the UK, most of our fans have obviously not been designed for a pandemic in mind. So so they're circulating the virus around the building.
Yeah. Huh. Well.
Nice and cheerful. And also as well. July the 4th is being celebrated in some quarters over here because that's when the pubs were due to reopen, or at least those that are wanting to.
Usually Paul Cornell would be in Minnesota this time of year for Convergence. Sadly, it was first delayed to August for other reasons this year, and then it was canceled. So this will be my first July in 20 years without that convention.
Gosh.
Which I've attended every year since 1999. And it was also the birthplace of Evelyn Smythe. So...
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm doing pretty well.
Yes. Okay, good. Yes.
So this month we're reading Human Nature by Paul Cornell.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do love it when we read a new adventure because our podcast takes on a kind of an additional layer of meaning, although unintentional.
Yes. Yeah.
The inspiration for the new adventures portion of our title, by the way, is from the TV series Wonder Woman, when that show switched networks and changed its title, and a bunch of different comic book series have done similar.
Yes.
So, Chris, what do you have for Show and Tell this month?
Show and Tell this month. Right. So there were quite a few options that I was going to go for, but I decided, Doctor Who magazine. Because I don't know whether you've seen, but on Twitter over the last month or so, people have just been saying, please go and buy Doctor Who magazine, because a lot of the speciality shops and stuff that stock it in the UK and worldwide have not been open because it's not essential shops, and whilst you can buy in supermarkets in the UK, it's people in supermarkets are wandering around in a state of fear and aren't necessarily browsing the magazine section. Doctor Who magazine's been going for 40 years, so it would just be an absolute shame
if it folds.
If it comes to an end. Yeah. I mean, they've already cut back on the comic strip, so at the moment there is no comic strip in Doctor Who magazine to save costs, but it will come back for Time Lord Victorious. But even if you find the Pocket Mags app that lets you kind of like browse Doctor Who magazine on your phone a little bit shoddy, like I do, then if you do, I just, for me, I can only read it on my laptop. However, I kind of know that I'm keeping a magazine alive that kept a show alive. So if you are in a situation where you're fortunate enough to have a spare little bit of cash and you can get an issue or two or a subscription, then I'm sure the magazine will appreciate it, and if you're buying from a comic shop or something, then I'm sure they'll appreciate it as well. So,
a ringing endorsement, and I totally, I mean, it would be a real shame if that. It really is an institution if that folded.
Yeah, I mean, it is the longest running publication associated with a TV show in the world. The fact that it just kept going throughout the 90s without seemingly any dramas, or at least not dramas to public knowledge. Then so.
Yeah, and it really is just like a wealth of information too every month. The different articles, and especially just as a historical reference piece too. It's fascinating to like go back and read interviews and things that contemporaneously came out during the show. And I know they're making more and more of their archives available. So, yeah, if you can, please get a subscription and support them. That would be very helpful.
Yeah.
All right.
So, that's me badgering people to spend hard-earned cash on Doctor Who.
It wouldn't be Doctor Who without a pledge drive, right?
Yeah. That's true. Well, certainly in the American experience, yes.
Yeah, in the States in the 80s, for sure.
Yes, but certainly from a UK point of view, fear of cancellation, that I also associate with Doctor Who. The whole thing. Are they going to take it away? So please, if you can stop Doctor Who magazine being taken away, then do so. Right, Matt, follow that.
So my show and tell this month is a tie-in to the book we're reading. And I'm not sure if these came as a set or what, but I have a stopwatch that was issued, and this came out, I think, from Character Options around the time of Human Nature and Family of Blood. So like in the 2007-2008 time frame.
Yeah.
But it's a reproduction of the watch as part of the chameleon arch used in the episode. And then when you open it up, it has David Tennant spouting some lines from the episode and some sound effects. Do you want me to?
Go on. Yeah.
All right. So the pocket watch, when you open it.
This watch is me. I dream often that I have two hearts. I'm not just a timer. I'm the master of the timer.
I don't know if you could hear that.
Yes, yeah, could hear that.
Yeah, but it's still going on the original watch battery.
Wow, that is impressive. I mean, I guess you probably don't. It isn't often used, but still, that is quite impressive.
And then it came with a reproduction of the Journal of Impossible Things from the episode 2, which had all the illustrations, including the picture of Paul McGann in it. And I had it signed by Paul Cornell at Convergence one year.
Cool.
So I have the Journal of Impossible Things, which came with this stopwatch. Is my show and tell for the month.
Fantastic. Yes, and very appropriate. Right. Should we start talking about human nature?
Yes.
Normally we introduce Paul Cornell, but
yeah, this is our third book by Paul Cornell. So
yes.
We can probably refer back to Oh No It Isn't or Goth Opera for his bio.
Yes.
But he's a very prolific author, and he's still contributing to the series.
Especially during lockdown as well.
Yeah. Should we talk about that?
I think maybe we can... Yeah. Or should we talk about that later? Because the story, his lockdown work does tie into human nature.
Yeah, let's talk about that at the end then.
Yeah.
So yeah, Human Nature, it was first published in May of 1995. It was the 38th of 61 Virgin Publishing New Adventures, and it was later available as an ebook on the BBC website from around 2002 to 2010 with illustrations by Daryl Joyce and commentary from the author. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find that version to be able to read his chapter-by-chapter commentaries.
Yeah, that is a shame that those... I mean, I can understand the actual text not being available because people would like you to buy it from, from reputable sources. But it's a shame that the author's commentary doesn't appear to be readily available online. Yeah, though he has made he's had a few interviews over the years about human nature, so that quite a few things have definitely kind of come to light.
And this was then republished as part of the history collection in 2015, and that's when Lisa Bowerman did the unabridged audio version. And it's kind of a rarity for a new adventure to have a audiobook of it. And then the book itself has a quite lengthy acknowledgments page where both Kate Orman and Stephen Moffat are thanked. And I wonder if one of the characters in the book is potentially named after Steve.
He says it definitely is, yes.
A curly-haired Scotsman.
Yes.
And then the book itself has a prologue, 14 titled chapters, and an epilogue. And there was also a prelude to the novel published in Doctor Who magazine, issue 226.
Yes, with future Doctor Who guest star Simon Callow seemingly being the inspiration for the look of one of the characters.
Oh, yeah, in the illustration that accompanies it, yeah.
Yeah. Shall we get started? I've been itching to get started with human nature for, I think, the best part of 3 and a bit years.
It is one of those cornerstone books of the New Adventures series.
Yes.
For sure.
And I'm indebted to, we're always indebted to Eric and Sean for the original version of the show, but particularly for them not having done this. So we have a chance.
Thanks for leaving us a bone.
Right, okay, should we get cracking?
Let's do it. So the book opens with the Doctor understanding that Benny is upset about Guy de Carnac's death, which I think was from the previous novel.
Yes, Sanctuary.
But the Doctor is not able to connect with Benny's grief on a human level, so determined to explore the human condition and better understand the companions that he travels with, he finds an interplanetary flea market on, it's like a
festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like Glastonbury. Or at least that would be how, I think possibly how a few Brits would read it. So you've got like various tents and everything.
Or like Burning Man without the desert.
Yeah. The things I love about the market is that when Benny asks, what was the history of the market? And the Doctor says, it's for tax reasons.
Oh, yeah.
and it's a great gag, but it kind of signals that this book is going to have a bit of a grounding in reality, or we don't hear some kind of like great mythic tale of the founding of the market. So the tax reasons. Okay, fine, fair enough.
And there's a genesmith on this planet named Laylock who's known for being able to reprogram humanoid physiology with nanites. And using a fictional persona that was designed from information in the TARDIS databanks, Laylock programs a set of nanites to transform the Doctor into a human and to store his Time Lord biodata in a pod that looks like a red cricket ball. Kind of the same size and shape.
Yeah.
And then we get a scene where, and Benny's been off in a beer tent drinking with friends during all of this.
Yes, temporary friends.
Newly found friends.
Yes.
And the Doctor gets up, kind of pulls her out of the tent, slaps like some sort of medical patch on her that soaks all the alcohol out of her system. So she's instantly sober. And then he gives her like a scroll of instructions before he collapses. So then the TARDIS is kind of on autopilot to the English village of Faringham in 1914. Right on the eve of the First World War. And John Smith will live as an ordinary human for 3 months, so the Doctor can experience what it's like to be human. And because the biodata pod would adversely affect the TARDIS if it was left inside, Benny hides it inside a tree, which starts growing around the pod, enclosing it. And she takes a room in a house owned by Alexander Shuttleworth, who's kind of a local personality, who has rooms for rent.
And he's the guy that looks like Simon Callow in the illustration.
We should mention, too, the prelude in Doctor Who magazine. It's like a meeting of, is it like a woman suffragette meeting that
Yes.
happens in the prelude. And I found that it was and I kind of read it like halfway through the book. I stopped and went back and read the prelude, but I was kind of glad that I didn't read the prelude first, because part of the tension during this portion of the novel, when Benny's kind of integrating herself into the local townsfolk, is finding out, which of them supports, the women's right to vote, for example, and which of them are like really conservative and stuck in their ways and opposed to that. And you kind of discover that, as you're learning about each of the different characters, and some of that is lost when the prelude opens up with a meeting, so you automatically know like who's all in that group.
Yeah.
Whereas in the novel, it kind of drips out that information more slowly, I guess. But one of the young suffragettes, her name is Constance, and Benny kind of develops a friendship with her. And John Smith, the doctor, is taking a position teaching at Halton Academy, which is nearby. It's a college, and befriends his fellow teacher, Joan Redfern. And so John Smith is a history teacher, and Joan Redfern is a science teacher. So it's kind of the inverse of Ian and Barbara.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
And then one of the students, Timothy Dean, the Love Actually kid from the TV show, is frequently bullied by his students, and he thinks he's kind of found a kindred spirit in the new history teacher. But Dr. John Smith advises Dean to try and lay low and try and fit in with the other kids. So isn't as, the heroic figure that Dean originally thought he was. And the headmaster of the college, Rocastle, is pleased that, Smith is at least starting to understand how things are done at Halton College. So that's the setup, and it's it's quite a departure from, a typical Doctor Who story.
Yes, it is.
And I'm assuming most folks are probably familiar with the TV show who may not have read the book, and that certainly was my case. But even right from the outset, there's major differences between the TV show and the...
The TV show is not a faithful adaptation. So if you have only just seen the TV show, but you enjoyed it, then I'd recommend reading the book, because the book has some similar beats. I mean, I think of it as like a cover version of the TV show. But even then, it's not quite that close, is it? It's
well, even the opening setup, I mean, is drastically different, because here you have the Seventh Doctor choosing voluntarily to want to be human, whereas in the TV show, it was the 10th Doctor doing it as a reaction to try and hide from the alien family.
Yeah.
The details are a little bit different and a lot more grotesque in the book, I would say. But
it's a new adventure.
It is, yeah. Written for a more adult audience. But I mean, one of the changes that kind of leapt out at me was that in the book version, you do have members of the family see the Doctor and Benny before they're able to escape. So you don't have that same sort of tension that you have in the television series, where they haven't seen their faces. So it's more of a guessing game as to who the Doctor is and who the companion is, whereas here the villains have that info from the outset, so it feels almost more dangerous in the book, I would say.
Yeah, but you also don't have the wonderfully creepy sniffing. Right. And also, so speaking of Simon Callow, as I did a little while back, it reminds me, you probably know this already, Matt, and dear listener, you possibly know this already, but I'd forgotten that Harry Lloyd, who plays the son of the family in the TV show, he is a direct descendant of Charles Dickens.
I had no idea.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. The son of mine from...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Another actor who is a direct descendant of Charles Dickens is the kid in the Partridge Family. I think Harry Lloyd's performance is better regarded.
Yeah. One other difference before we jump back into the synopsis.
Yes, yeah.
It's interesting that Joan Redfern in the novel is a teacher as opposed to a nurse.
Yes.
And I have to say, I think I prefer her as a teacher, as opposed. I can see why, with her being a nurse, you have that tension with Martha, having trained as a doctor.
Yeah.
But I do like the novel version, how, as a teacher, even though she's a woman and she's trying to get the right to vote and such, she seems more of an equal.
Yes.
With John Smith, both more of his peer, I guess.
Yeah, and as you say, there's the Ian and Barbara parallel, and I preferred it with the idea of her being an equal. Though certainly from the tales that my mum has told me of her teaching days in the 70s, female teachers were not regarded remotely as equals then, and I can't imagine what it would have been like in 1914. But yeah. Right, well, with that slightly depressing note, shall we resume? Okay, so 9 weeks pass without incident, and then the alien Obertides arrive. And so Laylock, the Genesmith, he's one of these shape-shifting aliens, the Obertides. And they can transform into the shape of any creature that they consume. And they want the biodata of a Time Lord. And one of them is, one of the Obertides is a person called Green Eye, who contacts Benny. And rather wonderfully, Green Eye is pretending to be the 10th Doctor. And he's wanting to find out where Benny's hidden the pod. And she, after a bit of back and forth, kind of realises he's a fake because the 10th Doctor isn't vegetarian. Which, speaking of someone who's drifted in and out and back of vegetarianism, like, you could still be the same person and change your eating habits.
Yeah. Or it could be unique to each regeneration too.
Yeah, it could be.
I feel like alcohol uses that way too with the Doctor.
Yes.
Depending on the regeneration.
Yes, and how long he's been stuck on Earth. So Benny tries to escape, and she accidentally wounds the Obertide child called Aphasia. Who's a little girl. She's basically picture kind of daughter of mine from the TV show.
Except her balloon in this case is a lot more deadly and can kind of float off Rover style from The Prisoner and suffocate people.
Yes, yeah. It's less like Stephen King's It. So Aphasia is taken to the hospital where she releases a corrosive gas that kills everybody, and she also eats a nurse in order to heal herself. So Aphasia is a bit of a handful.
And there's a lot more death in the book version than the television version.
Yes.
When you mentioned the 10th Doctor, one of the interesting things about the audiobook version is that, it was recorded in 2015, some 8 years after the episode aired. So I think Lisa Bowerman's performances of both Joan Redfern, that's probably influenced a little bit by Jessica Hines in her delivery. And then her characterization of the 10th Doctor, she kind of does like a David Tennant sort of impersonation. So it's kind of a timey-wimey thing, but it's an interesting little twist there.
Well, I remember, because I think I read this in May 1995, because I was just so excited for there being a new Paul Cornell book. And I think I was also one of the 5 people that enjoyed No Future. So I was going to go, yeah, you can't put a foot wrong. And when the 10th Doctor is appearing, I was excited, almost, even though it's pretty clear that it's not the real deal. But I was just like, wow. Just the thought that there could be a 10th Doctor. Because at that stage, we had no idea there was going to be an 8th Doctor within 12 months.
Let alone 13 or...
Yes.
Now quite a few more.
Yes. Yeah.
One other change, too, from the televised version, or I should say change to the novel from the... Again, timey-wimey, based on the orders I experienced these, but
yes.
So in the book there are 6 Obertides, whereas in the televised version there's only 4 members of the family. So I also kind of felt that the book had that heightened threat level. One, because of the added details and how gruesome it was in parts, but then 2, just that there are 2 more of them. Even though Laylock stays on the other side of the... And that's another difference, too, is they don't have a ship. They have like a vortex engine tunnel that they set up, which is different. I mean, it's still that invisible sort of thing.
Yeah. They also don't have a whole host of pet scarecrows either.
That's right, yeah. That was an addition for the television series. They have a number of different weapons, though, including like very sharp swords and...
Yes.
The gas pellet, like you mentioned. And...
Yeah. Yes, So Aphasia's been on a rampage in the hospital, and Benny contacts John Smith to warn him of the danger. But he doesn't believe her claim that he's really an alien lord of time. And then she goes to the tree and finds that the biodata pod is missing. And the pod has fallen into the hands of Timothy Dean. So, as you said before, him off Love Actually. And data starts leaking from it, and he's beginning to kind of take on the physical and mental characteristics of a Time Lord.
Which is another difference from the TV version, where here, his latent psychic abilities and that sort of thing are influenced by his proximity to the orb, whereas in the television version, it's kind of implied that has psychic gifts from the outset, and that they're kind of enhanced by the watch he gets.
So that very night, the school bully, this odious creep called Hutchinson, accidentally kills Dean while pretending to hang him in a mock trial. Dean, because he's acquired a respiratory bypass system, he returns to life. And that was quite a shocking scene.
Yeah. Especially, again, coming at it from that TV angle, it's like when they hang him outside of the school, it was just, I was like, whoa, he's dead. And and then they show like just how horrible and evil some of these kids are, and as they're like dressing the body up to make it seem like he
died of natural causes
in his sleep or something, trying to cover up the murder. And then he has a conversation with Death, with a capital D.
Yes.
One of the Eternals or Guardians, who I guess has appeared in previous stories too, right?
Yes, particularly Paul Cornell ones. So Death, I think, is on the cover of Time Worm Revelation.
And I read one of the interviews you sent over, and Paul Cornell says, in no way yet completely inspired by Neil Gaiman's characters of the same name.
Yes.
So then, after all of that activity and attempted murder in the college, Joan invites John Smith to her home for dinner. And they have this kind of extended courtship, and they admit to each other that they're in love. And Joan is a widower and very happy with how things are turning out. John Smith returns to his home to work on a children's story that he's been writing about an inventor who travels to a distant world in his time machine and teaches its people about laws and love. But then the people of this place called Gallifrey take his ideas too much to heart and become boring and stagnant until he's forced to flee from them in order to be free again. So talking about all these gifts, and I think regeneration is mentioned as one of them, and it was again kind of that call forward moment to some of the timeless children revelations.
Yes, it definitely feels like it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's not a lot in here that contradicts the timeless children, but if anything, actually ties into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at one point there's an allusion to lives before the ones he remembers too. John Smith, as he's going through his memories.
Yeah,
which I think may have been a reference to either the Morbius doctors, or at the time maybe the other.
Yeah,
but certainly Timeless Children fits right into that.
Yeah. I think it is intended to probably be the other, but yeah, and also as well, at one point they start talking about, there's a thing about, it's very important to know that there's a lighthouse on Gallifrey. Hello.
In case of emergency, break glass.
Yes. Yeah, so, Dr. Ruth has a lighthouse, so, yeah.
So as John Smith is writing, he's attacked by one of the Abertides, Seraph, who attacks the Doctor and eats his little finger, like part of the Doctor's finger.
Yes.
And because of the Abertide's physiology, he's then able to access his memories without being overwhelmed by the nanites which have made him human. And Seraph tries to force John Smith to remember the things he's forgotten, his Time Lord self, but then Joan arrives to return some gloves which John Smith had forgotten at her home, and she catches Seraph by surprise and knocks him out with a vase. And we should mention, too, that Joan was alerted to this by an owl. So there's recurring owl imagery throughout, which is kind of a Paul Cornell staple.
It is. Yeah, I'd say certainly throughout his first 4 new adventures. Yeah, there's owls and snowflakes.
And I have a theory as to what the owl represents or who the owl belongs to.
Okay, go on.
But I'll have to we'll touch on it later. I
Okay,
think.
fair enough. Yeah.
So Seraph is then taken to the police station, where the police call in the army to investigate the mysterious attacks on John Smith and Benny and some of the horrific deaths at the hospital from the gas. And John Smith, recovering from the attack, then proposes to Joan and gives her an engagement ring with a large blue jewel in the center. However, he's unable to remember where he originally acquired it.
And also it's made clear it doesn't fit him.
Mm-hmm. Which I think it's the first Doctor's ring.
Yeah, it's got to be, isn't it? Yeah. So Constance contacts Benny, offering her help. So Constance was the suffragist that Benny met in the pub, and shows her a cache of explosives that have been stored by the suffragists under a local statue. And these explosives are too sweaty and old to be safe. So Benny goes to her landlord, Alexander Shuttleworth, for help instead. And she's basically forced to explain where she's really from and what the attackers are after. And also shows her personal data pad, her iPad, to prove her extraordinary claim. And he believes her. And unfortunately, she's utterly exhausted and just kind of collapses asleep.
Well, they've been drinking quite a bit.
Yeah,
the two of them, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
In typical Benny fashion.
Yes. And so, as anybody would, if you've got a data pad sat next to you, it's this has the future, you'd be tempted to have a look, I think. But then again, maybe after 2020, you'd be no, I'll just see how the dice rolls. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how I would react if someone said, here's the book of the future in it. But yeah, so Alexander Shuttleworth decides to kind of read it whilst she's sleeping. And when she wakes up the next morning, she discovers that Alexander's learnt that his dear friend, Richard Hadelman, will be killed by mustard gas in the upcoming war. At this point, the Obertides then attack the house, though Constance leads Benny and Alexander to safety. And when she asks Benny why they're under attack, Benny explains about the pod, but admits that she doesn't have it and doesn't know where it is. Constance then takes Benny and Alexander prisoner, revealing herself to be Green Eye, and therefore the real Constance has been captured and eaten. Which, that surprised me. I'd forgotten that from when I first read it.
Yeah, and it alludes to it in the televised version, but in the book version, the original text, it just, that threat level seems higher because they're constantly, changing appearance.
Yeah.
Throughout the book, so you never really know who is, been replaced and who hasn't.
Yeah.
So then Green Eye in Constance's body and August, who's like the father of mine, kind of the oldest of the Obertides, they rescue Seraph from the police. And in the process, they discover that the armed forces are on their way. And in order to avoid a battle which would attract the attention of the Time Lords, they set up this double time barrier around the town, almost like two spheres that are slightly out of sync with each other, which would prevent anybody from getting in or out until their mission is complete. And there's this wonderful little sequence where they're going through all of their tools in their toolbox in the dome, and they're like, should we use this or that? And they're like, what about a heat barrier? And kind of a reference to the demons.
Yes, which is where I'm sure Paul Cornell got this idea from. It also reminds me of Stephen King's Under the Dome. Though that was published many years after. Though I think it was based on a short story that Stephen King wrote in the 70s. So maybe it's an allusion to that as well. I don't know. Yeah. So
then back in the Obertides base, which is where the this dome that's been built around the vortex, Benny and Alexander are being held captive within this dome, where August, the head of the family, explains that they intend to use the biodata in the pod to give themselves the power to regenerate. An ordinary Obertide family buds to a maximum of 8 members, but with the power of regeneration, each member of their family would be able to regenerate 12 times and bud an additional family member from each new body, so sort of exponential growth. And so each of the new family members would also be capable of regeneration, and soon they'd be able to conquer Gallifrey through sheer force of numbers. The Abertides are kind of a little bit like the creatures in School Reunion, too, where they consume their victims and take on different attributes from them.
Yeah, one thing that struck me when I was watching the TV show was the interior of the family's sort of like spaceship, and that reminded me somewhat of the Zygon spaceship.
Oh yeah, very kind of organic, and it felt grown,
Yeah, and there is definitely a Zygoniness about the Obertides as well, even though their bases are a very different setup. As Paul Cornell has spoken about in interviews, he had various different ideas as to who the villains could be, including terrorists with a crinoid pod, which I think is interesting. And he also has an idea that at one point that it could be 12 incarnations of the same Time Lord.
And that would be a really interesting kind of...
Yeah. Well, it's an idea that has been done since in Doctor Who. I shan't say any more. I will say it's not something that we're likely to discuss in the context of our show. Yeah, but it's such a good idea.
Interesting.
Anyway, right. So Dean, Timothy Dean, having come to terms with his new abilities, wanders into the field during kind of like military training. The school has kind of like a cadet force. Yeah, I don't know how common that is in American schools, but my school had one.
In the US, they would have like the ROTC, but they wouldn't train on college campuses or something. You'd go off to a military base to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, my school kind of did, but didn't do the shooting. But yeah, you would see people wandering around the basketball courts doing parades. Okay, a bit weird. They also had an option of doing a kind of like a Duke of Edinburgh award, which you did good deeds for local people, which is what I ended up doing instead. Anyway, so enough about me. Yeah, so Timothy's wandered onto the field during military training, whilst the headmaster, Rocastle, was demonstrating the use of the Vickers machine gun, which of course is a relatively recent invention. And unwilling to admit how scared he is, Roscastle tries to beat some sense into Dean, but Dean knocks him out with a touch of a finger, knowing that in a few short years, Rocastle is going to die of a painful bowel tumour. And then Timothy enters the forest to contemplate his new life, but he's spotted and pursued by the Obertides. And they lose him, but now they realise that the pod is held by a boy from the local school.
And I wonder if Philip Segal was at all influenced by this in terms of the trait of the Eighth Doctor to be able to see into people's futures to kind of reveal what's in store for them.
Yeah, possibly. Because, I mean, you could easily imagine that they'd have probably bought and read a fair few of the recent New Adventures. Mm-hmm. So, because it's not something that the Doctor often does. But yeah, so meanwhile, Benny and Alexander escape from the dome, and they also see Timothy Dean in the forest, but they're not able to track him down. And so they go to the school where Alexander claims that a boy has stolen a valuable pottery sphere from his museum.
In the scene where Benny and Alexander are escaping from the dome, where they've got these like large pieces of metal strapped to their backs that are having to like carry. The ebook version of the book that was available for several years, the illustrations by Daryl Joyce are still available, and that's one of the scenes he illustrates. Mm-hmm. So those can be found relatively easily online. Cool. If you want to kind of see some of those scenes.
Does Alexander look like Simon Cowell in those as well, or Simon Callow?
No.
No. Okay.
A little bit different.
Rocastle assembles all of the boys and their masters in the hall to demand that the miscreant confess. But then the Obertides arrive, surround the school, and give the occupants 30 minutes to hand over the pod. There's an echo of this in the cliffhanger at the end of the TV episode Human Nature, isn't it?
In that case, you have the scarecrows kind of surrounding the school and getting ready for the attack. And the Doctor has to choose between his companion and Redfern. So then Rocastle, who has been looking for an excuse to use all of the military hardware that he's been, stashing up at the school for years. He organizes the students to fight off the attackers, despite Benny's objections, that they're only boys and that the Albertides, even though there's only 5 of them, would be slaughtered. The students would be. So John Smith, his house in the college, the group of boys that he's responsible for, they're placed in charge of the machine gun. But then when one of the boys tries shooting at the Albertides, they return fire and kill him. And Smith finds that he's unable to fire back at them in anger, although Benny and Joan may disagree on whether he's John Smith or the doctor. They both agree that that's not the sort of thing he does, and it's a really interesting scene where John Smith is cradling the dead student that was shot by the Albertides, and he's got, the machine gun sights ready, and he's... he could try and take out these aliens, and then Benny, in his frame of vision, kind of thrusts the question mark umbrella, and it beautifully frames both of the aliens in it, and he's got this choice where he literally has Benny on one side of him and Joan on the other, and he has to decide what to do, and he, drops the gun and he picks up a poppy, and it's a really powerful scene.
The boy with the machine gun. I think that's the scene that's depicted on the original cover, where you've got the Doctor in the background.
It is, yes.
So, it's interesting that is the scene that's chosen, because certainly when I was reading the book originally, I was kind of assuming that was what Timothy Dean was supposed to look like. And so then when one of the cover stars is in the book for about a page and a half and gets brutally killed, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Huh. So then John Smith tells the other boys to drop their weapons, and they're kind of holed up in the library, inscribed in Latin, and it says bigger on the inside than the outside. And there's a secret passage behind a bookcase that goes from the library of the academy, which was once a country home, all the way to the local tavern. So they have kind of an escape route.
Yes, convenient one. Though it is kind of explained as to why there would be a kind of a link. Though I can't quite remember the explanation. I think the explanation's moderately sordid, isn't it? Anyway, So the deadline for handing over the data pods expires, and so the Obertides storm the school, killing everybody that gets in their way. And in amongst the fighting, Aphasia, so daughter of mine, is killed, and the enraged Obertides take shelter under a force field, and they detonate a fusion bomb that transforms the school and every student inside of it into glass. And I was just shocked again. I keep on using that word shocked, but because I had no recollection of daughter of mine dying so early on in the book. But yeah, so fortunately, the school bursar has already evacuated a number of boys through the tunnel, which he's been using for some time to visit the tavern after curfew. And what's the name of the bursar, you're wondering? It's Mr. Moffat, who is described as a Scottish man with curly hairs, and I think, was it constantly perplexed eyes? So yeah. So Stephen Moffat
has a cameo.
He has a cameo, yeah.
One of the women in the beer tent earlier was named Jack, as in J-A-C, so I think it might have been a reference to Jacqueline Rayner.
Yes, it would have been. And I think there are some other names as well that are inspired by friends at the time. So Rocastle, Hutchinson, and a few other boys also kind of reach shelter and survive. And Benny later finds Rocastle wandering around the remains of the school in shock. Hutchinson, who's the school bully, seems convinced that this was a glorious battle, and he intends to continue fighting. It's all a bit of a grim commentary.
So then John Smith and Joan Redfern and the boys of Mr. Smith's house split up to search for Dean and the pod. And Smith and Joan are searching together, and John Smith finds his memories are changing depending on which way he turns his head. And Joan realizes that he's picking up memories from the pod, and that everything that Benny had told her earlier was true. And they find Timothy Dean nearby, who has convinced himself that the pod is not meant for him, but Smith announces that he intends to hand over the pod to the Abertides, so they'll leave him alone and so he can marry Joan in peace. And Dean refuses to allow this and takes the pod back, and as the Abertides show up, he runs off. And the pod really does take on almost like a Lord of the Rings style One Ring in terms of like passing it from person to person, and it kind of whispering and tempting the people who are holding it or showing them different things. It's a really interesting. I think it's probably an intentional homage.
Yes.
The alien Abertides then take Joan Redfern hostage and threaten to kill her if Smith doesn't find and hand over the pod by dawn.
So we now, I think, reached a stage where we've got this month's reading.
It is, yeah. So this is the dramatic reading for the month. It's a short excerpt from the audiobook, which was, as we had mentioned, released in 2015. And what's kind of interesting about this audio is it's all performed by Lisa Bowerman, but I guess it's like a deluxe or enhanced edition where it features sound effects, music cues, crowd noise. It's a full production, and you usually don't get that, so it's kind of cool. The unabridged audio is available on CD, digital download like iTunes and Audible, so let's have a listen.
Tim ran through the orchard, cursing himself, the pod, everything. It was all falling apart. That stupid man Smith had wanted to give their enemies the pod. That couldn't be allowed to happen. He didn't know why. It just couldn't. The timing wasn't right. So he was running pointlessly again. Or so he thought. Ahead, some of the apple trees which had been felled by the blast had fallen across the top of some large object. Some large, blue object. Timothy cautiously walked around the obstruction until he could see what it was. A police box. Not much like the ordinary kind, but recognisable nonetheless. He rubbed the grey dust away from the notice on the front. Call here for help. What's a police box doing in the forest? He asked the pod. The thing felt special, full of possibilities. It reminded Timothy of October tea times, while his mother had still been alive, eager walks through leafy fields, back for tea and bread with condensed milk. It reminded him of being read to, of being safe. Gingerly, he touched the surface of the box. It was vibrating gently, humming even. He knew what the box was then. It was somewhere to run to, somewhere that would always be there no matter what else was spoiled. It was magic in a corner of a cold world. It was home. Timothy put his arms around the box and hugged it. And then a telephone began to ring. Timothy looked around incredulously, trying to find the source of the sound. It seemed to be coming from the box, from behind the sign. He fumbled with the edge of the plaque, and it swung open on a very rusty hinge. Inside was a blue telephone, and that was what was ringing. The pod was vibrating in time with the sound. Timothy had never answered a telephone before. He picked up the receiver. Hello? Then a moment later, if that's where I have to go, why do you want me to show him that? All right. Who is this? He shook the telephone and found that it was dead.
And that was a great performance, I thought, by Lisa Bowerman.
Yeah, it was very hard for us to choose an extract, wasn't it, for this one? Because there were a fair few examples that were all brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough to decide, but there really is something magical about that scene where Timothy sees the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And again, the unabridged audio, you can find that digitally wherever fine books are sold. It's quite something.
Yes. So on the outskirts of the dome surrounding Farringham, Alexander's friend Richard has arrived, and Dean uses his new time sensitivity to lead him through the time barrier so that he can lead John Smith to Dean. One thing that's quite interesting is Richard Haddleman. He's trying to become the next MP for the area. And you see him, because there's a whole host of soldiers that are outside the dome trying to find a way in. And he's talking with them, and whilst he's obviously kind of like regarding everybody as a potential voter, he's also definitely portrayed as a good guy. I would say it's yeah,
like an earnest politician. I would say.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of the things that I found quite interesting about the book is that all of the even like relatively minor characters all feel to me quite fleshed out, and yeah, which is what you would expect in a book, but it's not often what you get.
Yeah, it's one of the book's strengths, I think, for sure.
Yes, yeah. And also as well, don't forget, Richard is the guy that Alexander has learnt from the datapad, dies in the upcoming Great War. So yeah, Dean uses his time-sensitive powers to show John Smith a potential future in which the Obertides have conquered Gallifrey and launched a reign of butchery across all space and time.
Another really gruesome scene where you have Timothy's observing Romana and Flavia being held up for like public execution, and and there's this really, as they're like using a sword and like chopping off Flavia, for each regeneration.
Yes,
it's taking that idea really to an extreme, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so John Smith reluctantly accepts that he must not surrender the pod to the Obertides, but he doesn't know how he can defeat them and save Joan, and so he's wondering, what would the Doctor do?
What would the Doctor do?
A very good question.
Yes. So Benny, Rocastle, and the boys from the college see the Obertides taking Joan back to their dome base, and Rocastle insists that they try to rescue her. Benny's able to lure Green Eye and Seraph to an old statue where the boys have used some of Benny's archaeological dig equipment to have quickly dug like a giant pit, which then they covered with like this light resin, but only Green Eye falls into it. Seraph then shoots Rocastle, but Rocastle's deliberately standing above a bunch of explosives that are kind of packed around the statue in the woods, and then the explosion kills both him and Seraph. Green Eye then is able, almost climbs his way out of the pit, and then is met by all the schoolboys who nearly beat him to death. But Benny stops him because she doesn't want anyone else to die, and they need to use him as a hostage. And then so John Smith arrives and accompanies Benny to the Obertide Dome, where they, in a bit of a deception, pretend to be Green Eye and Seraph returning, mentioning that Seraph had already consumed the Doctor's pinky, so could change into him, and then that Green Eye had killed and consumed Benny and changed into her. And so they fool the other two Obertides that are in the dome, and they attempt to rescue Joan, but then they're found out, and they barely escape, and Joan gets recaptured. And then Smith is running out of time, and he's wondering what he should do next, and he has a vision of his first love, Verity, who is in fact an aspect of the TARDIS, which is placed into his mind to protect parts of the Doctor's psyche which could not be completely erased from Smith's mind. And he now knows who he really is, whether the Doctor or John Smith. He is never cruel or cowardly, and he's a man of peace, even in times of war. So you get that wonderful allusion back to the Doctor's mantra, which, Stephen Moffat would later use, and I think Malcolm Hulke and Terrence Dicks originated in the Making of Doctor Who book.
So at peace, Smith uses the pod to change back into the Doctor, and the Doctor, pretending to be Smith, takes the pod back to the dome and hands it over to August. And August, expecting an influx of Time Lord biodata, is unprepared for the human nanites in the pod and is mentally transformed into John Smith. And the last surviving free Obertide, an Obertide called Hoff, guns Smith down as he tries to release Joan. But in the confusion, the Doctor operates the time barrier controls and traps Hoff, August's body, and the pod, which now contains August's biodata, between the walls of the time barrier. And in the void between the walls, he bids farewell to the late John Smith, and then sets the Obertide's equipment to self-destruct. Joan survives due to her engagement ring, which is in fact a ring that the Doctor often wore in his first incarnation.
You still get that kind of scene of deception that was in the televised version, where David Tennant comes into the ship in the end and he's pretending to still be John Smith. You get that a couple of times here, both first, when John Smith and Joan are pretending to be the aliens, but then later when, the Doctor performs that kind of switcheroo and gives, the data pod full of the human nanites and not the Time Lord ones to the alien. And I was thinking about it and I'm like, isn't that the plot to Superman 2?
Yes. Yes, well, and Paul Cornell's quite open about the fact that he rips it off.
Yeah, the scene at the end with General Zod and the red lights were on out here, but you were safe
Yeah.
in the construct. So yeah, then August becomes John Smith. He never reveals that to Joan Redfern that John Smith was in August's body at the very end there.
No.
There's a scene where he has like an encounter with Death, and it's revealed that was it in Love and War that Death mentioned to the Doctor that she would be claiming one of his lives at some point, or maybe in Time Worm Revelation.
Yeah.
One of his previous books.
I think it's Time Worm Revelations, but I might be wrong.
But sacrificing August, John Smith and August's body to Death is what that counts as fulfilling that promise. So you get that resolution to something Paul Cornell had set up several books ago.
Yes, yeah. And whether or not that was intention when he wrote it, who knows? But can also, in some ways, this book does feel quite Moffat-y as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. and even more so with the various versions of it and it being adapted and some of the call forwards and stuff too. Yeah.
Yes.
So then the Doctor, understanding vaguely that John Smith was fond of Joan, he sends her home with the intention of returning later to explain what happened. But then once the Doctor reasserts himself and his personality, he has no intention of leaving and saying goodbye. But Benny stops him and kind of orders him back to Joan's house to have that final conversation before they leave. And Joan is upset to learn that Smith had died for her earlier, but she must accept that although the Doctor remembers his experiences, he isn't John Smith and can't go back to being him, not even for her. The Doctor does mention that he could become human again later, but it wouldn't be the same, which also kind of unintentionally ties into
the TV show.
Yeah. Joan ends up giving her cat Wolseley to John, or to the Doctor, and before leaving, the Doctor also orders that Green Eye, who's the surviving Aubertide, is in police custody to be kept away from any meat sources. However, when the army arrives to take the transfer of him, he asks his guards for a corned beef sandwich. So the Doctor and Benny depart.
I'd forgotten that Wolseley kind of joined, because also I don't think Wolseley isn't a big presence in the next novel. I mean, to be fair, he's not really a presence in most of the novels in which in which he makes a little bit of an appearance, just wandering around the TARDIS. But I can't remember whether he even actually appears in Original Sin.
It's probably intermittent until later.
And I see there is some speculation that the Wolseley in the Benny spin-off stuff might not be the same cat.
Yeah, I think because there's like a Wolseley in later on, like 10 or 15 years later in some of the Big Finish stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that cat may be different, but I think like the cat in Oh No It Isn't.
Oh yeah, that's the same.
Yeah.
But also maybe because Wolseley travelled in the TARDIS, Wolseley might have
picked up a few regenerations or something. 9 lives, perhaps?
Yeah, possibly so. Right.
So the Doctor and Benny depart, unaware that one of the students in the academy, Alton, was in fact a Time Lord agent all along, there to keep an eye on things and ensure that they didn't go too far. And that's where I think the owl comes in. It seems like that may have been Alton's familiar, because the owls, I mean, they appeared around John Smith, but they also appeared a bit around Alton. So I don't know if that was the case or not, but it's a possibility.
Could even been his TARDIS.
Yeah.
Could have been his TARDIS, couldn't it, maybe?
Yeah. So there's a scene at the end where Elton visits Laylock, and Elton's wearing kind of like a black CIA Time Lord cloak that narrative says, wouldn't be amiss in the capital.
Yeah.
Kind of a nondescript piece of clothing. And then he pays off the surviving Aubertide with like a little satchel of money. So I wonder if one of the members of the family was in on it the whole time and set up the rest of his family, or what that had to do. And they also sent like a vortex pulse back through with the intention of like either disabling the vortex engine or killing Laylock, and that didn't happen because he survived and was paid off by Elton. So that seemed almost like a dangling thread to me.
Yes, almost like a deliberately dangling thread, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Rocastle's death had shown to Timothy Dean that the future can be changed, and that gives Alexander new hope that Richard, who Benny's realized is more than a friend, to Alexander, and that was hinted at throughout the book that
Yes.
that they seem to be really, really good friends.
Yes.
But they had a relationship, and that also explains why Alexander was so devastated to learn of the potential death of Rocastle Richard, in the iPad that was revealed to him. And in fact, he does survive that World War I battle, although Hutchinson doesn't. And Alexander lived to a great old age, as does Timothy Dean. Mm-hmm. And although fully human again, Timothy was never cruel or cowardly. Even in times of war, he was a man of peace. He never bullied his enemies, but outsmarted them. And he may not have been the Doctor himself, but he's learned from him. And we get a scene in the epilogue where he's in World War I, but he's part of the Red Cross, and he's working as like a battlefield medic, and not as a soldier.
Yeah.
And we get the scene...
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Go ahead.
I think you and I were about to say the same thing. So we also get a scene of the funeral, which is kind of echoed in the TV version. So this time in the book, I think it's Tim's funeral, isn't it?
Or no, it's a World War I remembrance.
Ah, that was it. Yeah.
And but then Timothy Dean falls asleep at it, and the narrative says that it's a sleep that he never wakes up from. He later dies. Yeah. But the Doctor and Benny are kind of off in the distance, watching him.
Yeah.
And that's human nature.
Yeah. So, what did you think of Human Nature?
I loved it. I thought it was. I mean, it's a masterpiece, really. I mean. You know, when you think about the hundreds of different novels that came out during the wilderness years in the various book ranges and book lines, Russell T Davies chose exactly one to adapt. And he could have picked his own book, and he didn't. You know, he picked this one. So it's such a pinnacle of the range. It's almost hard to evaluate critically because it has such a well-deserved, I think, reputation.
And it's so beautifully written as well. And also sort of not overly flowery, but there are just some lovely turns of phrase. And Benny's diary just sings off the page whenever we get any narration from Benny, which which is what you'd expect, given that Paul Cornell invented it. But still, it's just such a lovely thing. And there's one quote I did want to say that we hadn't spoken about earlier. It was, I think this is from John Smith. Yes, it is John Smith. It's sort of like right towards the end. It says, "There are monsters out there. Yes, terrible things. But you don't have to become one in order to defeat them. You could be peaceful in the face of their cruelty. You can win by being cleverer than they are." Which again feels so doctory, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And also another thing that's worth highlighting is the kind of the battle in the First World War that we've been seeing visions of throughout the book. That battle happens on the 14th of July, which is possibly the date on which the podcast drops. So yes, if you're listening to this on the day of release, then yes, maybe you're listening to us on the 105th anniversary
of that battle.
Yeah, that battle.
Huh.
So, I
mean, there's just so much to go into with this book. So, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the differences between the television story. I had no idea this book was Wolseley's origin story. He's a cat, I've encountered several times in some of the books we've read.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that he was originally Joan Redfern's cat.
Yes.
And there's a beautiful scene near the end of the book where Wolseley's going around the TARDIS and marking his territory. That's a great scene too.
Yes, yeah. And also Wolseley says that there'd been a cat there before. And is that a reference to the Sixth Doctor?
Well, I thought it was a reference to Cat's Cradle and the silver cat that was inhabiting the TARDIS during that, maybe. There's also a call to the Doctor saying that he's Merlin.
Yes.
There's all sorts of little bits like that.
Yes.
Continuity references throughout.
Yeah. There's one thing that Cornell had said in interviews at the time was that he wanted to expand the mythos of the show with this book in the same way that Star Trek Generation had done with the original Star Trek series. And I don't know whether that's a thought that would necessarily have occurred to me from reading it independently, but yeah, I can see what he means, because there are these lovely references, but they're just there as extra bits of layering. If you don't get them, that's fine. So it's like when I first read the book, I almost certainly didn't recognise the First Doctor's ring.
And there's another First Doctor callback similar to that where he and Joan are sitting down for some cocoa together. And it's like a nice allusion back to the Aztecs.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
things like that. One of the things that did surprise me was definitely the high body count in this, and how most of the school gets destroyed, and all of the kids and the teachers, save for the doctor's group, are pretty much slaughtered. That was surprising, but kind of couched in the terms of, this is a new adventure, and things were more violent in that series. But
well, the TV version's fairly violent. There's a relatively high death count in that, isn't there?
yeah, but not quite as high. Although in the TV version, you do get, randomly they're destroying the village by air.
Yes.
Afterwards, and that bombardment goes on for quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing I like about there being quite a few differences between the book and the TV is the fact that it means that both could possibly happen. Because when the TV version was announced, in some ways I was excited, but also in some ways I was disappointed, because it suggested that maybe the New Adventures didn't happen. But there's also a theory that this could be two separate incidents. I mean, okay, sure, both of them happen to feature a lady called Joan Redfern, but I mean, they're set at different times of year.
Yeah, the TV version set slightly earlier, I think by a year.
Yeah, November. Also possibly to accommodate filming, because it does not look like spring. It looks pretty cold.
One of the things that I was surprised was in the book as much as it was, and I thought it was something that had been added for the TV version, was, the discussion about racism. But a lot of that is still there within the original book, because one of Tim's friends is, I believe, Indian.
Yeah, Anand, yeah.
Anand, yeah. And you get Timothy trying to defend him at one point, and a lot of what's discussed with, Martha, because Benny doesn't take a position as a servant at the college.
Yeah.
She's kind of off doing her own thing.
Yeah, because she's the doctor's niece, or John Smith's niece, who just happens to be in the area.
But it's great, that discussion about racism and the really vivid imagery about the hanging, and that's in the text. And it's interesting that Russell T Davies and Paul Cornell kind of took that and drew it out in a different way, but still made it part of the TV series, even though that character's no longer in the story.
Yeah, I think I preferred the book's treatment of it, I think. But yeah, I did just enjoy the character of Anand, because also as well, it is a reminder to people that Britain before the First World War had people of colour. You do get these wrong impressions from just popular misconception that was not the case, but yeah.
And there's also the discussions of being colonists, and you get the scene in the battlefield at the school explaining the different types of bullets for different enemies.
Yeah.
And how they either, if they're a worthy or just or Christian enemy, they get the bullet that offers them a quick death. And then these square bullets are for different types of enemies that make them bleed out and die a much more horrible death. And we reserve those for savages.
Yeah.
And it's just really chilling.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with a 2020 case. But yeah, gosh. Yeah, I'm so glad that the book so stands up, because I was nervous. I was going to go, it's not going to be as good, and also, as I say, it is such a different beast from the TV show. So it could well be that that every now and again the Doctor has a human nature experience. Maybe the second Doctor goes through something like that. Maybe.
I do love how the Chameleon Arch has become such an integral part of the show. Both the Master and the Doctor and the Fugitive Doctor, they've all used it. Yeah,
and it's not in the book.
Yeah, it's not.
No.
So which version, book or television show, do you prefer overall? Or can you choose?
Can I choose? I think I'll go with the book. But I mean, they're both very fine. I think the book has aged slightly better. I think the TV show, on some of the bits of race, I think possibly handles it in a different way than you would now. And also, the book's visual effects haven't dated.
I do think the romance worked a lot better with the 10th Doctor and Joan rather than the 7th Doctor.
Interesting. Okay.
It just seemed more believable to me.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of wish the women's suffragist subplot was carried over into the television version, but I understand, I mean, they only have so much time to focus on it. But some of the changes they made, I prefer the book version where Tim isn't psychic from the outset. That's due to his proximity to the cricket ball. And I didn't expect the girl member of the family with the balloon to die.
No.
And then for them to consume her afterwards, which
Yes.
was really...
Yeah.
It's almost like Cornell didn't get out all of the gross cannibalistic stuff in goth opera, and some of that carried over into this.
Well, and also don't forget that Kate Orman did help him with plotting the book.
True. Yeah, he does mention that in the...
So, yeah.
And I think I do prefer the book version more, too, just because I think Benny is, at least she's a stronger character. She's more well-developed, I guess, than Martha is, even though I do really enjoy Martha as a companion as well. I kept thinking that Alton was the 6th member of, like, the aubergine undercover, given his slightly weird, aloof behavior throughout, but
Right.
it turned out he was a CIA or division agent instead.
Yes. You did accidentally stumble upon one of the things that I found annoying about the Obertides, because I kept on reading that as aubergine.
Oh, is that what I've been saying?
Yeah, you
no.
said aubergine. So,
Oops.
which is eggplant for North American and I think some Southern Hemisphere listeners.
Couple of other tidbits, just before we get to how we would score this book.
Yes.
There is a mention of the Albertides. Don't stare into the vortex too much, or you'll go insane from it. So I'm wondering if, is this the origin of that? Because it was later used by Russell T Davies in The Sound of Drums with the flashback of the Master.
Yeah, it could well be.
I was also surprised that Bernice and Joan don't actually meet until chapter 9. They're kept very far apart for most of this book.
Yes, but also, Bernice isn't particularly impressed, but in a different way from Martha, but yeah.
There's a scene near the beginning where Benny's on her bicycle, kind of going around the town saying hi to everyone. And I now realize that there's a very similar scene in Oh No It Isn't, where she's, doing the same on the planet Della with her university. And I'm wondering if that's maybe a callback to that.
It's also, as well, they're both a callback. Oh, and I forgot the name of the actor when we were talking about Oh No It Isn't. But Kenneth Branagh's first wife.
Emma Thompson?
Yes, it's a callback to an Emma Thompson film.
Huh.
In which she's cycling through the streets of, I think it's Cambridge.
I know Emma Thompson's been cited as as one of the inspirations for Benny.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other... Oh, just a couple more tidbits. Is this the first time that the phone box rang with, the scene in the dramatic reading?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I can't think of a time early, and I know Moffat's used that a few times in the television show to dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Including the Bells of St. John.
Yeah. I love a story that plays with the TARDIS. And this, I think, is... Yeah, it is the first time. I can't think of any others. But I don't remember it happening. I didn't remember it from the book.
in the book itself.
No, I didn't.
Huh. And then I guess finally, before we talk about the follow-up short stories, and we give our rating, some of the descriptions with Tim, where he's talking, where it talks about how his human mind is metaphorically drowning in the information that's contained in the sphere. It felt like that influenced Russell T Davies with Donna. And her not being able to contain a Time Lord's memories either. That felt very similar to me too. Yeah. I wonder if this may have been the origin for that as well.
Yeah.
So Chris, how are you going to score this one?
What mark do you think I'm going to give it? I'm going to give it a 10.
How could you not?
Yes. Yeah. I don't think I need to say anything more. I loved it then, I loved it now. So yeah. How about you?
It's a 10 for me as well.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece, and like I said, there's a reason RTD chose it out of all of the ones available for him to adapt, and it really is that good. Lars Pearson has said it best when he said that this is really Doctor Who's equivalent to City on the Edge of Forever. in terms of being like a tent pole.
Right, that's the very first time we've both given the same book 10.
It is. I don't know if that'll ever happen again, but it was like,
Don't think it will.
yeah, if I had any hesitation whatsoever, there was a lot of grotesque eating of people and stuff in this, but it was a new adventure, so
Yeah. Yes.
But,
yeah. Still.
Yeah.
So it was one of the milder ones. It was one of the milder ones for that. But yeah. But yes. Yeah, as you say, I mean, there were so many wonderful little quotes, so many lovely little bits. I remember when I read it as a teenager just being captivated just from the time, when they arrive at the kind of like the marketplace. Yeah, I mean, I think if you know of anyone who is tempted to give Doctor Who books a read, I would say thrust this into their hands. Mm-hmm. If you can find a copy, and at a social distance as well.
And speaking of social distancing, we've had some follow-ups to this.
We have, yes.
So Paul Cornell's released 3 short stories. They're kind of interlinked that tie into this.
Yes.
And the first was prose, and I think the remaining 2 were videos, or short video, like YouTube clips.
Yes.
With some illustrations and such.
Yes. One by a Minnesota native.
Oh, Chris Jones. Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was thinking you were talking about the written part.
Oh, no. No.
Paul Cornell's, he visits Minnesota, but he's not really.
Yeah, no. So what did I make of the short stories? I'd read the 13th Doctor one, the title of which escapes me. I read that not long after that was released. I think possibly on the night of release. And I enjoyed it. I don't know how much detail we necessarily want to go into.
I don't think we need to go into the detail, but
but
if people want to seek these out, so they're The Shadow Passes, which is the prose one, and then Shadow of a Doubt, and then The Shadow in the Mirror. So they're kind of all interlinked.
Yeah. The one of them is less obviously connected to human nature than the others. But yeah. It was fun seeing his take on the 13th Doctor and her crew. Mm-hmm. And I thought he really did capture the characters well.
And it's interesting how it kind of functions as a sequel or an endnote to both the TV and the book versions.
Yes, the combined thing. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, and also as well, it has the implication that human nature is something that does just seem to happen possibly across the multiverse, if not across the Doctor's timeline. Maybe Dr. Ruth has her own experience. Maybe that is what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I think hers is more in response because she's hiding out from the Jadoo. So which would align with the TV show motivation for sure. Huh. Kind of like how Who Killed Kennedy, has that epilogue, some 20 years after it was published.
Yeah, though that rights are wrong, I think. Mm-hmm. That writes a mistake in the original book. Whereas this isn't correcting something, I don't think. It's just improving and enhancing. I mean, certainly the latter 2 stories only make sense if you've seen the TV version.
And there is a line in the TV version where the Doctor says, as he's imprisoning the girl, maybe someday I'll forgive her.
Yeah, we've said it before. It's been so lovely, the outpouring of creativity from the Doctor Who community. Yeah, during this pretty awful year. And Paul Cornell had kind of implied a few times that he'd finished with Doctor Who. And I'm just glad that his trilogy of short stories made such a triumphant return, I think. Yeah.
As much as Paul Cornell and I think Gary Russell too proclaim that they're always done with Doctor Who, they keep coming back.
Yes.
Which is very welcome.
Yeah.
That's Human Nature.
That was fun. That was good. Well, I thought we would enjoy discussing human nature. So,
yeah, it was a lot of fun just to read through it and do the comparison with the televised version, and it was a great pick. Shall we move on to listener feedback?
Yes, let's.
So we've got another email this month. This one from listener TJ Rankin, who we heard from a few months ago. He's writing to us from what he calls the COVID petri dish once called Texas.
Oh, yeah.
They're spiking down there.
Yeah, I've got a mate of mine in Texas, and it does not sound good.
He thanks us for another great episode, and he says, in these really difficult times, it's a great detox to be able to listen to your show. And he says he's super excited about Time Lord Victorious, and while he recognizes that it's probably a skeevy capitalist scheme to get fans to buy more product, he doesn't care. And he's especially excited for the Big Finish audios that have been announced, because if there's one thing that he'll never say no to, it's more Eighth Doctor audios. And then TJ has a recommendation for us, and he wants us to read a Time Lord Victorious book for a future pick, which is always a possibility down the line.
Yeah.
And he hopes that we stay safe, and he's looking forward to July's book.
Cool.
So thanks, TJ, for writing in. And incidentally, congratulations to guest of the show, Sophie Isles. She was announced as writing one of the upcoming Big Finish stories that ties into Time Lord Victorious, focusing on one of the Masters.
Yes.
It's a short trip that'll be performed by John Colshaw.
Yes.
So very exciting.
Yes. I think it's the Roger Delgado Master.
Oh, cool.
That's yeah. She hasn't said anything to me, but it's just. But
It's either that or Anthony Ainley, judging by the cover.
yeah. I expect John Colshaw's probably going to do Roger Delgado, but yeah.
Well, I think it's both because
Is
it's
it? Okay.
it's two short stories and they're both on the cover, and I think it's one each.
Okay.
But I don't know which is which.
Right. Okay. Okay.
But yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
You can hear her on Trading Futures.
Yes. Is that January 2018? Possibly.
A decade or two ago.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe, or January 2019, I can't remember. 2019, I think, yes.
If folks want to drop us a line, they can email us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. How about on Facebook?
Yes. Oh, on Facebook. So, on Facebook, we heard from Amy McLaughlin, who had been listening to our podcast of Blue Box, and she stopped listening to it midway through because she wanted to read the book and wanted to avoid any spoilers, which is good. That sounds like a job well done, doesn't it? I want to be too backstabbing.
Yeah, we're trying to encourage people to read the books here. So
Yes,
Yeah.
And before she started going too far into the episode, she said, "It sounds like the sort of thing you'd like if you enjoyed Who Killed Kennedy." I thought, yeah. And we also heard from Jay Barry, who said that it's a really good book and that the narrative style is put to good use. So it's good. It's good. It's always good to hear from people on the Facebook, and also say nice things on the podcast section of Apple or Google Store. Or
please give us a kind review.
yes,
Be like the doctor.
yes.
On the Twitter side, we heard from Pop Dietary, who writes great work on the Blue Box podcast, and they offer us this deep cut saying that the album title of a famous compilation record released in January 1982 by Discord Records was name-checked in the novel Blue Box, printed on a character's clothing.
Oh, okay.
And I have to say I missed that.
Yep.
Longtime listener Keith Say thanks us for the Blue Box podcast and says it was entertaining as always. Jeff Elston writes, another great episode, gents. He didn't make it this far into the Past Doctor Adventure series back in the day, but we made this one sound like a worthwhile read, so he's going to be digging into his archives to read it.
Cool.
And then Josh on Twitter slid into our DMs to tell us that our page is brilliant, and he loves the idea of a Doctor Who book club, and that it's really nice to see these books being appreciated. And he's definitely going to read along with us next month, which would have been Human Nature.
Cool. Yeah, we're good.
So thanks for all the comments. Those are wonderful.
Right. I think we're at the stage where you tell me what we're going to be reading next month.
I am, and still have several doctors available to me.
Yes.
So we've done several novels in a row, so I'm going to change it up a little bit.
Okay.
And dust off the TARDIS timer. And I think we're going to complete a trilogy while we're at it.
Okay.
So for August, we're going to be reading the third and final volume in the BBC Short Trips series. Short Trips and Sidesteps.
Oh, okay.
From March of 2000.
Cool.
It's edited by Stephen Cole and Jacqueline Rayner.
Okay.
It's been 7 books in a row that we've done novels for now. So
Yes.
I figure knock that off the list, and then it completes that trilogy too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
seems
no,
like
that
it'll
would be good. Be good.
Cool.
Something nice to sit outside in the sun and and just read. So yeah.
And I find my attention span, especially in the summer, it's getting a bit on the shorter side. So I think it'll be a good pick where we can space out the short stories a bit.
Yeah. And I don't think the news is going to be getting any quieter.
And I couldn't pick a doctor, so I'm like, you know what? Let's pick all of them.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Or most of them.
Yes. So most of them that were known at the time. Yes.
and some others. 'Cause this is
Oh, yes. We're going to have a certain future Doctor, aren't we, probably?
I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
Wolsey licked the butter they'd put on his paws. This new place was huge, with big white corridors leading off everywhere, and an amazing range of interesting smells to follow. There had been another cat here, once, but it had gone now, so the territory was his. He'd already been shown a whole room full of cat litter, and another with sunshine, climbing bars, and a lot of different and challenging cushions to lie on. Cat heaven. The two new people were sitting in chairs in the room with a thing that moved up and down. It was warm, so Wolsey was curled on top of it. The two people were drinking from cups. Every once in a while, the woman would reach out and hold the man's hand. She'd held on to him for ages when he'd first come through the door. Then they'd made the drink together, hardly letting go of each other. Odd things, people. Still, Wolsey thought that he was going to like it here. It already felt like home. Then the smooth motion lulled him to sleep. He was woken only once that night, as his new owner reached down, late and alone, to gently smooth the fur on his head. The cat could see that the man was weeping, but there was nobody he could tell.